And like, I have family members in my life who are so negative that I have to pray for them from afar. I love them. I care about them. They're my blood, but they're just not on the right mindset. And I just can't talk to them daily.
Are you ready to make it rain? Learn from the best in the biz on how to take your business to the next level. You're now entering the growth zone on the Guts and Glory Show with your host, Louise Scott.
Hey guys, welcome to the Guts and Glory Show, a show dedicated to helping you learn just a little more so you can be bigger and better than you were before. Today, I'm really excited because I have a guest who is going to rock our world. You know, I've been really on this kick lately, and it's this kick about the psychology of people, how people think, how people react to things, especially when you have a big organization and a lot of employees. And so today, I have Aaron Esfahani, who is from Woodstock Counseling and Psychiatry. And he is going to help us navigate the questions that I have and help you guys understand better how to grow your business and how to take your business from 7 to 8 figures and beyond. So Aaron, thank you for being here. Welcome to the Guts and Glory Show.
Hey, thank you for having me, Louis. I really appreciate the opportunity to come out and talk to everybody on the podcast.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, on the Guts and Glory Show, one of the things we want to profile is people's trajectory to success. And so I'd love the audience to hear a little bit about you, because you're not only working in one business, you actually have multiple businesses. So tell us a little bit about your backstory and how you actually came to achieve what you've achieved.
Sure. So those are great questions. You know, I do have several businesses, and you know, my first business that is my baby is Thriveworks Woodstock Counseling and Psychiatry. And so, you know, overall, in a nutshell, if I could tell you one thing, Louis, and tell the listeners on the podcast one thing, like, mental health is your greatest wealth. If you're not putting time in, whether it's through meditation, whether it's through some form of self-care, you're not gonna reap the full rewards, I feel like, of success in your life.
Absolutely. And, you know, you find a lot of people who are successful financially, but their life is really falling apart in a lot of ways. And I see this in employees. I see this with business owners. They have all the things, the signs of material wealth. They're on the trips. They have all the pictures. They have all the videos. But then when you get to know them personally, they're really suffering on the inside. Yeah. And how do people escape that cycle? Like, what are some things that people can do to escape that cycle and really develop a good mental health strategy for their life?
That's a great question. So one thing that we always teach our clinicians, just even in practice, and just me focusing and placing a high emphasis on leadership, is some of how to escape that cycle is you've got to address, number one, what is stressing you out? Because if you have mental health stressors in your life, whether it's finances, whether it's your kids are off track, whether it is a business that is not doing as well as you feel like it should be, these are all mental health stressors. And so the value proposition that psychotherapy has on one's life, seeking a counselor, is just tremendous. I feel like everyone from your sanitation worker to your CEO could really have a huge value in just putting your hands in the trusted advisor of a counselor who's licensed, whether they're a psychologist, a social worker, a counselor. Get with them and hash out what is your number one stressor, and then you work a plan to remove that stressor, so that way you can focus on the big picture, which is living a high quality, successful life. Yes. And you've got to hack away at those stressors in your life. I look at stressors in one's life as atoms or molecules, if you will, in the air. And so they could be somebody cutting us off in traffic, flipping us a bird. You know, the Starbucks lady took too long during the drive-through, and then you spilled coffee on your way to work. right? So all of these are stressors, and they can have an impact on one's life. However, if you have the major stressors that are wearing you out, you're just going to continuously be chasing after the wrong things, whether it's going to the bar, cheating on a spouse, cheating on your business colleague, trying to get ahead, all because you don't know why you're doing the things that you're doing, because you don't have control of this, which is your mind, right?
You just gave us basically an entire book in like 2 minutes, and there's a lot to unpack there. And I want to kind of repeat it back to you the way that I understood it. What you're actually saying is that mental health is difficult if you allow big stressors to go unresolved, because the little stressors keep piling on and piling on and piling on. And then you see that person that explodes at the store or at the gas station and goes off on you. That's essentially what you're saying.
Of course. And you know, look, I mean, I used to work in the ER setting, emergency settings. I've worked in family care settings. You know, look, I'm an advanced practice nurse, and I'll tell you that, look, we see patients come in all the time. I used to do triage nursing, which is basically you're a telephone nurse and you're refilling meds for the doctors. Well, we have patients call in all the time. Oh, you know, I'm having, you know, all these signs and symptoms of a heart attack. Should I come to an outpatient facility? No, you need to go to the ER. And so, but, you know, people have so many stressors. And when they come into the hospital, they could be like, you know, 6'7", you know, the body of like a bodybuilder, and, you know, look to be from 100 yards away like the perfect ideal person. And psychologically, when they came in, they're under distress. And, you know, they could have had a set off marking event that happened in their life, like spouse cheated on me, or, you know, I lost my job. And then now they're coming in because they're a threat to themselves or a threat to others. And so when you end up in that world, now, like, that's almost too late, right? So that's the whole goal and the whole key of why I keep this practice, the Thriveworks Woodstock store, open. That's my store. And I keep that open because I have a passion to help people from ending up in the ER or a psych ward, like locked up against your own will. We're putting shots in your ass, putting you to sleep, all because you can't take control of your actions in your mouth and your mind.
It sounds like
you can't go out here doing that.
Yeah, and it sounds like what you're talking about is preventative treatment. You're getting ahead of the curve. You know, we have a lot of entrepreneurs who listen to this show, and business owners who have employees. And so I want to break this question down into 2 parts. The first part, and then I'll ask the second part. The first part is, what can a business owner do if they're finding themselves in this constant state of panic over their business, in this constant state of worry, this stress, and they're not sleeping, or maybe they are sleeping and they're self-medicating? What can a business owner do? Because, you know, it's a lonely world out there. When you're an entrepreneur.
It's lonely at the top.
So
that's a great question, and sorry to interrupt you at the tail end. However, I want to tell you that the number one thing that a business owner can do to take care and take control of all of these stressors that are keeping them up at night, the sleepless nights, talking their spouse or their loved one to death about their problems, and they're driving everybody away because they're just negative Nancy, right? So what you should do is focus on what you can control. Okay, what is the immediate thing I can control? All right, so and so let's say your profit and loss statement came out and you lost $20,000 this month, right? So that's a huge stressor. Well, what can you control? Well, how much did you spend on meals this month? How much did you spend on travel this month? How much did you spend on that P&L that you could, you know, take off next month, eliminate, so that way you could, those are focusing on, as a businessman, as a businesswoman, on focusing on things that you can control. And so the more that you practice on well, what can I control? Why am I getting stressed out? And like, if it's something that I can't control, then I need to quit letting this stress me out.
This show has been brought to you by 8-Figure Firm Consulting. At 8-Figure Firm, we help law firms turn into law businesses. Stop wasting your time with gurus who've never built a successful business. At 8-Figure Firm, we'll show you how to unleash the power of your law firm for personal and financial freedom. For more information, go to 8figurefirm.com. Welcome back to the Guts and Glory Show with your host, Louise Scott.
Like, right. I can't help it if COVID is happening. I can't help it if, the administration or made the wrong policies, or I heard a terrible thing on the news and I think the sky's going to fall. You can't help any of those things.
That is absolutely correct. Yeah.
You can control your own circle and what's going on with you and your situation.
I love that. And I think taking back control, I did counseling several years ago, and I don't really talk about this, but I am releasing my book. It Has to Hurt, here in about a month or so, in May or June. And in that book, I talk about my struggle with depression. I didn't realize I had it. And one of the things that I focused on when I was in that battle was on everything I couldn't control. Like, I was focused on everything else that was unrelated to my, it was in what they call it, the sphere of influence and the sphere of concern. And I was in the sphere of concern all the time. Like, everything that concerned me was what I worried about, instead of worrying about what I could influence. And when I went to counseling and when I got the help that I needed, the unlocking for me was when I realized I need to stay into that influence zone. Like, what can I actually control? And when I started focusing on that, completely changed my life. I think some people have a hard time making that switch, and that may be one of the questions that I think people have is, how do you make that switch? How do you go from worrying about things you can't control to now worrying about only the things you can control and fixing those? How do you make that switch?
So I'm a firm believer in going to the experts and leaning off of the experts in their field, right? And so if you're a leader, if you're an entrepreneur, you need to go to an Eagle. You need to find out what they would do, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. And so what I would do if I was in any one of your listeners' positions, or anyone, watching the podcast live, I would tell them to go seek help from a mental health therapist. There is a rhyme and reason to what we do. We assess these patients. We figure out what is going on with them. We can come up with a very accurate psychological diagnosis, and then we can also, help you out with those stressors. And then not only that, another key area where we play a big part in one's successful life is helping them with pharmacotherapy, aka medication management, aka it's okay if you have a chemical imbalance, okay? You need to just get on your antidepressant, your benzodiazepine for your anxiety, whatever the case may be. Get on the right medication to help you take control of your mind, so that way you can take control of your assets, all of your liabilities, all of your family, your kids. Because if your mental health world is falling apart, I hate to be frank with you guys, but you don't have anything. I mean, you don't have it. It's like, if you lose your mind, you don't know where you're at. You don't know who these people are that are putting you to sleep, locking you up in the psych ward. Yeah. Until you can wake up from that trip, you're just, and I don't want to see anybody go to that length, but I've seen so many patients go to that great length and don't address their mental health the way that it should be. And look, we're in the South, we're in Atlanta, Georgia. So look, I mean, mental health is still somewhat of a taboo. Okay. If we were in Boston, where Thriveworks was first founded, like, you've got a mental health therapist every square mile. Tony Soprano even had a shrink, right? So, I mean, you got to do it and, go to the expert, get diagnosed, and figure out, okay, if it's anxiety, well, how can I control this anxiety? All right, boom, take this medication. But you can't just expect to take a pill to fix your whole world, because if you read in medical evidence and medical science like I do, then you would know that medication pharmacotherapy is only 50% of it. The other 50% is working with a psychotherapist, a counselor, to address your needs. And then that's how you get the full circle here. Right?
Wow. Yeah, that's a good point. I heard, I extrapolated something that you said, and it was, if you're not all there, you're not there at all. And I think that that's so true. If you're not all there in your mind, you're not there at all. I do want to make a disclaimer though. You are not recommending anybody to do anything. You're just saying if the doctor prescribes it, you should do it. Yeah.
If
to go.
The doctor prescribes to do it. Now, obviously we don't do anything against the law, right? We respect our country, our law, and we are a high quality evidence-based practice, medical practice, right?
Yes.
So, we have to abide by the Georgia Composite Medical Board, right? I mean, there are, checks and balances to owning a medical practice, right? So, I don't want anybody to go steer. I would rather everyone listen here to go to somebody who's an expert, a respected psychiatrist in your town, a respected counselor in your town. If you don't know of anybody where you're listening from, just go to psychologytoday.com and you can go in there and find
resources.
Counselor, find resources and people that are willing to help. Because look, I mean, I wish I could help out the whole world, but I think the only way I can do that is just through prayer. Right?
Absolutely. And you got to start one person at a time for sure.
Yeah.
So here's the second part of this question. So now we've dealt with the owner. The owner's now healthy. They've done the steps that you've recommended. And now you have 10, 15, 20, in our situation, almost 200 employees. There are employees who are suffering from the same sorts of mental health, and you want them to be healthy, not only for their own benefit, but you want them to be healthy because they produce better for your business. So what do you do as an owner when you find that an employee or 2 or 10 are suffering from these issues? How do you help them without violating HR, without having to expense a lot? How do you guide someone through this process?
So that's a great question, Lewis. I will tell you that, mental health is at the forefront right now, especially after COVID. You got a lot of big companies, Delta, Coke, all these people, they're Home Depot. I mean, look, I know people that work for these companies here locally in Atlanta, right? I work out with them at the gym, and they're all placing high emphasis on mental health care. And so what leaders can do with their firms is, and for the first part of that question, how they can address that issue with kind of being politically correct is, number one, just when you're having a team meeting, right, a check-in, just talk about, how important mental health is. And then, very broad, very general, and then also help your team focus on self-care, because if you can't fill your cup first, you can't fill others' cups, right? So encourage your team to go take a brisk walk for lunch, go have a nice cup of coffee, enjoy your favorite drink. Hey, thanks for your hard work this weekend. I just want you to really just play some self-care. Get a massage this weekend. Here's a $100 gift card. These are all forms of self-care. And once your team knows that you've got self-care on the radar, they're like, whoa, I've got a boss who cares because he cares about me. He tells me to go read a book. She tells me to go take a walk in the park when I feel stressed. And they just really support my mental health. And then what you'll find is you'll find more loyalty amongst the team, because once you're telling them that you're placing their higher, in the healthcare world, we kind of talk about some sciences, and so, but there's a famous pyramid that we talk about, and if you're on the lower portion of the pyramid, You're just, your basic needs are met. You're eating, your food, you got a car, you got a shelter. But when you get higher on this pyramid, right, it's like you need higher forms of like fulfillment, and those higher processes require support. And when you have a leader who is supporting the team, who is nurturing the team, who is putting the team's needs above his or her own needs, and really treating their employees as if their greatest asset, their mother, their father, their brother, their sister. Hey, Joe, you're not looking good today, bro. Hey, man, look, you might need today off. Look, here's $100. Go take care of yourself. And so Joe's going, and hey, and then also I think a follow-up to your question is providing resources for the team, reaching out to people like me and my company. I do business to business relationships. So you could reach out to our practice, and you could say, hey, look, I've got a team of about 30 employees, and look, I mean, we have Aetna insurance, and it looks like you accept Aetna insurance. Can we have like a relationship here? Open up those kinds of convos, because having like therapists are in high demand right now. So I invite everybody to go to Psychology in Day and see if somebody's even going to email you back, right? Yeah. And so that's the problem. And where my company comes in is like, we've addressed a lot of those pitfalls that the small practices don't do or are not doing. Like, so i.e., I have a call center. And so my call center is picking up calls with a target time of less than 28 seconds, right? And so we've kind of removed that stressor for someone who's seeking mental health care, because I promise you, if you call 20 practices today, you might get 2 to call you back. All right. And
nobody has a call center. I'll tell you that for sure, because that was my experience when I was reaching out. You had to leave a message or you had to email. And this is so good. I think you said a couple of things that I really resonate with, and that's caring for your employee and how that translates into them really wanting you back. I tell people all the time that if you show your employees that you love them, like, that's a very strong word, especially in the corporate world. We live in a very cutthroat corporate world where that word is never used in any capacity. But I say if you show your employee that you love them, they will do unbelievable things for you. I say show them, not say it. You have to show them, like, it's a demonstration of love to them by the way that you act, behave, talk, and so forth. They will do unbelievable things for you and your business, which will ultimately help your family and your life. And so I do agree with that. That's really huge. You mentioned something in that last part where you talked about the gym, and I'm just curious, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is exercise? Is it a 5? Is it a 4? Is it a depends? Like, on a scale of 1 to 10, because I think that a lot of people struggle with going to the gym, with myself included. I just recently started going back to the gym 3 days a week, but sometimes it's a real grind, especially with a lot of work and family commitments and so forth. But how important is the gym on a scale of 1 to 10?
God bless. If I could tell every listener here and all around the world, I didn't come up with this quote. It was Arnold Schwarzenegger, I believe, but it was like a meme on Instagram or Facebook, but it had a picture of Arnold, and it said, and it resonated with me like for so many years. It said that, has a picture of Arnold sitting there on a weight bench, all swole, looking all pumped, and everything Arnold Schwarzenegger's achieved, right? And so, like, it says, exercise in the gym is the most ignored form of therapy in the whole wide world. Wow. And that's all it said. And so to follow up to the answer to your question, it's a number 5. I mean, if we're on a 10-point scale, it's a 10. If it's on a 100-point scale, we're on 100.
And how many times a week are you thinking?
So, like, minimal, I mean, I would go off of, you could pull up, CDC guidelines. You could go to the American Cardiology Association. You can go to all these people, pull up their guidelines. They're all going to tell you, like, literally 3 to 5 days a week, at least 30 minutes a day of rigorous exercise. that means you need to sweat. Your shirt needs to be wet, right? When you're leaving.
none of these weak workouts, right?
You don't need to be walking around there on your cell phone like, oh, I'm trying to get this number. I'm trying to holler at this girl. You know, I'm over here at Lifetime. This girl looking good. You know,
Yeah.
I see them all the time. But look, I mean, be consistent about it. All right. Because if you're not consistent, you're not going to do anything. If you're not disciplined, you're not going to do anything. So the number one promise you could make to yourself is, I'm going to like really put mental health at the forefront. And one of the best, inexpensive, best ways to do it is just through exercise. Like a lot of these problems, probably eating disorders, XYZ, they could probably all be solved through it.
I mean, right? The exercise can be free. All you have to do is go outside and run really fast for 30 minutes and you'll get, you know, at least your heart rate up. What is one thing one book, one talk, one video, what is the one thing that was the most impactful thing in your life, in your career, whether it's for mental health or not, but just like in business, give us one nugget of wisdom that's going to change somebody's life who's listening.
Sure. So number one book still to this day, and I read it just to marinate on it, is The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. And it's by Dr. Joseph Murphy. And so Dr. Joseph Murphy, I believe he was like from Ireland. And so like, you know, the knowledge that he drops is from like ancient Egyptians and like power of just like thousands and thousands of generations ago. This is how these people zeroed in on these powers and built great pyramids, did the greatest things in the whole wide world. And so when you have the power to take control of your subconscious mind, and you can basically program your mind to literally have anything and hold it in your hand. All right. And how do you do that? It's programming your mind with a fixed, subset of commands that you want to happen. And if you want it to happen through repetition, through belief, through prayer, it will happen. Okay. Because Dr. Joseph Murphy talks about the fact that whatever's impressed in the heart of the subconscious shall be expressed on the outside as form, as function, as experience, as event. So throughout the heart of the subconscious are all your issues of life. And so if you're feeding your subconscious continuous negativity, calamity, fear, doubt, news, Fox, CNN, all of it, you're going to think the sky is falling out and you're going to start playing all of their negative paradigms in your head, right? And so you really need to sit down and marinate and figure out, what is it do I want? Where do I want to go? And how am I going to get there? And so once you can kind of mentally objectify and categorize those things, you can literally program your mind to go after it and do anything and everything that you want.
How do you deal with negative thoughts? Because thoughts come into my head. You know, the other day I was driving down the road and just a random thought comes into my head. And you know, if you follow me, you know that I bought a toy car just recently. And sometimes I'm in my toy car. I'm driving down the road, rooftop down, and a thought comes into my head, you're not going to be successful. While I'm in a 6-figure car, right? Like it's like the most bizarre thought. How do you deal with those things? Because like I'm always trying to read and listen and fill my mind with just great things, but they still come. So because we're talking about the subconscious mind, accessing the subconscious mind for true power. How do you deal with those thoughts? Can you get rid of them, or are they always there?
Sure, that's a great question. So it's very difficult to always get rid of them. Like just this morning, as I was walking my dogs, I was like, well, what if this is my first podcast, okay? Just to be transparent with everyone. And I'm very blessed to be here. But I will tell you, it's like, what if I fail? Like, what if Lewis doesn't like me? Like, what if like I don't do a good job? And so I always have that fire underneath my rear, like, it's like, what, you know, because I've always had to turn in papers and do all these high complex projects and do all this stuff. So I always got this fire under my rear. And so I think that's just like that's just really just your conscience checking in with you and just creating some level of accountability with some people. Now, if you take control of it, you know, and turn it around, and immediately, when I used to work with a very brilliant psychologist, she would always tell me to simply, like a remote, change the channel. All right, you're walking your dogs, you're on your way to work. Oh my God, I'm not going to get the job. Oh my God, I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. Oh my God, I'm not successful, right? All these things, just say, hey, immediately change the channel. All right, hey, I am successful. Hey, I am great. Hey, I have prepared for this project. Hey, I have worked my ass off to get to where I want to be. How dare you say you're unsuccessful? Go into all the reasons of why you're successful. Flip it around, change the channel, change it to a channel that you need to be on.
I love it.
Not on a negative channel where it's just nothing but BS and sky falling out, right?
Yeah.
You can't let that BS in your head.
Yeah, the positive self-talk, I think people underestimate how important that is. And it's because it feels a little weird to do it, right? Like, you know, I drive down the street sometimes in my car and I'm like, you're awesome. People want to hear you. People want to listen to you. People want to work for you. People want, you know, and I think it can be a little strange. In fact, it's just as strange as when you're singing at the top of your lungs with the window down and somebody pulls up beside you and you forgot the window was down. That's about how strange it is to do that. So
initially,
right?
But through practice, through repetition, it just becomes second nature. Right. So immediately when I know, all right, you know, I'm not going to get to where I want to go, or I'm start feeding into all this negative stuff, right? You know, you just got to flip it around. And the more you keep flipping it around like a hamburger, you're gonna be successful at that. Like, it's just, everything is through repetition on the positive mindset and feeding good positive vibes into your mind and your body and your soul. Like, everybody want to go shop at Whole Foods or Trader Joe's and get all this healthy stuff, but then they go home and sit on the couch and feeding themselves all this negative BS. Whether it's on Netflix, whether it's on Hulu, whether it's on just cable news. Like, you've got to literally guard everything and anything that you're feeding your mind as well. Just like you're guarding what you're putting in your house. Oh, does this have enriched wheat or enriched processed something in it? You know, I mean, you got people that are literally staring at every ingredient list, right? And some have medical conditions and they have to. I get that. But some people are like so hardcore about what they put in their mouth and their body, but then they're not looking at what they're putting in their mind. So it's like, I'm like, you know, I'm not the smartest man in the world. I was never the sharpest tool in the shed. Like, I had to work for every grade, every paper, every darn thing in my life. But I will tell you that when I took control of my mental health, when I read self-help books, when I was at the lowest point of low, when I was in shreds, you know, there was a higher calling, whether you want to call it the good Lord, the Holy Spirit, whether you want to call it like just your simple drive, your desire in your heart, your gut, your subconscious, all of these things, right? Infinite intelligence within you, whatever you want to refer to it, all right? Whatever your belief is, I respect it. I commend you, but I will tell you, the most important thing you can do is take control of your mental health. And that's how you can take control of all of these outcomes that you want in your life. And so let's say your house is for sale, but every day your mom, your wife, your kids, everybody's, oh, this house ain't gonna sell. And then you start telling yourself this house ain't gonna sell. Well, you know what? Your house probably ain't gonna sell. But, you know, if you flip it all around and you start feeding that subconscious, you know, through positive affirmation and, you know, just feed your mind and nurture your mind, whatever the outcome you want it to be, and continuously replay that in your mind, literally, I promise you, you will hold it in your hand.
Yes.
All right. So, I mean, just like you have a 6-figure car. You probably dreamed about that car like as a little boy. And you may have had like a poster on your wall, like I did, of a Lamborghini or a 90s Ferrari, or, you see Magnum PI, and I need that car, little boy, right? So you got your car, but then now your mind's not fixed and you're riding around thinking you're not successful anymore. It's just you're like on a hamster wheel at that point.
Yes.
Because now it doesn't matter. You've probably heard the proverbial saying, you can lead a horse to the water, you can't make him drink. If someone is unhappy, they will never be unhappy. You could buy them a brand new Rolls Royce Wraith and you just bless your wife with this badass car, and now she's still unhappy. Well, why is that? Because she may be struggling. She may have some anxiety. She may have some depression. She may have some postpartum depression from having some children. You never know what's going on in people's lives. But my thing is, go to an expert, get assessed, just drop your pride, drop your ego, and just do what it needs to do. Put in the work and just get it done. Because if you sit around and complain about your problems, look, everybody, misery loves company, right? So the more that coworker, they want to talk about their problems, and then eventually they start pushing everybody away from them. And like, I have family members in my life who are so negative that I have to pray for them from afar. I love them. I care about them. They're my blood, but they're just not on the right mindset. And I just can't talk to them daily.
Absolutely.
I can't listen to that. Like, you can't,
I mean, you are hitting so many things that you said something that made me think about Les Brown. He said that, telling people your problems doesn't work because 20% of the people don't care, and the other 80% are glad that it's happening to you. So it's, it's one of those things where nobody cares about that. So,
but your counselor does.
That's true.
And that's what they're getting paid for sort out your problems. And so, I'm sorry if I interrupted you on that train of thought there.
No. But this has been good stuff, man. I appreciate it. Aaron, this has been awesome. I think that this is going to be helpful to a lot of people. Where can people find you if they are interested in learning more about how to fix their mental health or the mental health of their employees?
So you can reach out, email woodstock.support@thriveworks.com. And so Thriveworks is one word, but woodstock.support@thriveworks.com.
And we will make sure that if they have any questions, they can reach out to you. And I'm assuming now in this new world, people can do all kinds of Zoom consultations. So this would not be something that they have to come in. So you'd be able to help them from all over the world. So thank you very much for being here. Guys, you've been listening to an amazing talk about mental health. And my favorite thing from today's talk was mental health equals wealth. And if you're an entrepreneur out there trying to build your business, trying to go from 7 to 8 figures, you want to make sure that you focus on your mental health. You want to make sure that you focus on thriving personally, so that then you can pour into your team, into your business, into your community, and then build something that is worth having. So thank you for joining us today on the Guts and Glory Show.
You've been listening to the Guts and Glory Show. For more and to learn more about Luis, hit the website at luisscottjr.com. For consulting opportunities, hit 8figurefirm.com. That's the number 8figurefirm.com. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review, and we'll see you next time on the Guts and Glory Show.